Hello, everyone. And my name is Shibani. And today in my talk, I'm going to be talking about a case study where students are using ChatGPT in written assessment. And I'm going to throw some provocative questions, being the last speaker of the session, to help us think through if AI really enhances or diminishes learning among students engaging with AI. A little bit about myself. I'm a lecturer at TD School, stands for Transdisciplinary Innovation. We cross boundaries across disciplines at UTS. And my research is actually around learning analytics and artificial intelligence in education, where I've done work using artificial intelligence tools and writing support for improving teaching and learning contexts. I've also served twice on the executive committee for the Society for Learning Analytics Research, which is an international body looking at how data and analytics can help teaching and learning purposes. But this particular talk, I'm going to be focusing more about my teaching context, but there is a bit of a research teaching integration, which is around the Master of Data Science and Innovation, which I teach at UTS. So the specific classroom context is students learning data science. So data science as a field, a lot of people, in contrary to what a lot of people associated to crunching numbers and writing complex code, machine learning algorithms, it's quite interdisciplinary. In sense, it requires technical expertise. Of course, students will learn how to write code, how to build algorithms, build cool stuff like LLMs, like ChatGPT, and so on. But the key thing is they also need a number of interconnected skills, including critical thinking, problem solving, data storytelling. And our responsibility as educators is also to help them develop those skills. And data science professionals should keep up with the latest advancements in AI. As you know, it's just going at a rapid pace for everyone to keep up, but it's more important for them to learn to see what's happening at the right time, how is it going? So when ChatGPT came about at the end of 2022, around the start of 2023, we cannot, really turn away from it. We know that they have to learn to engage with it. And this is, in turn, it aligns with a lot of expert views on how we cannot simply ban generative AI or evade it, because students will get access to it. They're using it. So whether or not we ask them to, they're definitely using it. So it helps if we give them agency to learn to critically engage with AI. So that's what I did in my particular subject, which was called Applied Natural Language Processing. It's a subject where students are learning to build cool technical applications using text data or natural language, how we speak. And what's one of the assignment tasks, it's about 20%, it's a very introductory assignment where we're asking them to write a critical summary of the ethical issues in natural language processing applications and a visual map. So in all of these assignments, we do have a purpose or the key skills that we want students to develop, and that includes things around research, reflection, writing itself, finding information, evaluating it, and so on. And with that, we also want them to develop AI critical literacy skills, because we know it's not going away. They need to learn to use AI. So they were encouraged to use ChatGPT for a starter text or to help improve their writing. They were basically free to use any AI tool they wanted to, as long as it reflected their own writing and thinking. They can use it for finding information. One of the main requirements was that the reflection should be on their learning and how they are learning while using those AI tools. And they should submit their ChatGPT prompts and responses if they helped it for their writing at all. And some clear guidelines were given, which is a 5-page document. If you're keen, you can actually look into the tiny URL. And this was all before many principles and policies came into effect. So this was autumn 2023, the first run when it came about. So telling things around what it is, how to access the tool, what are the limitations of the tool, how do you use it for their assignment, how to cite it, and so on. And this also aligned with UTS's approach to generative AI, which is to facilitate effective and ethical engagement with AI-based tools that helps with their learning. So this all sounds great in principle, in theory, but the real big question is, do students use AI effectively? And we don't have many answers for that. And as an AI and education researcher, I've also seen very limited empirical data or research coming out of classrooms and from students to see how they engage with it. So obviously we need more data, more evidence. We need to look at what students are doing when using AI. So to build on that, I've used some of our past research around cultivating critical engagement. So this was, I guess, pre-ChatGPT, where we're exploring how students are using automated feedback tools and building on it with more recent work with ChatGPT around if we can categorize what that levels of engagement will look like. So in our previous work, we found students had diverse levels of engagement. Some were working on a very surface level, shallow levels of engagement, versus others were quite deeply engaged with AI. And in the current work, we've actually gone to characterize it a little bit further in stages and with examples to see how it looked like. And I'll go through all of them one by one. So the very first one, so this comes from a number of theoretical frameworks, from writing theory, as well as from information seeking or finding theory, to see what are the different stages in the writing process, and where do students engage with it, and what can we characterize as shallow, and what can we characterize as deep. And these are obviously just examples, few examples. There are many others in the big paper. So the critical interaction for planning and ideation is usually the very first stage of any writing process. And in terms of how it manifested, the ChatGPT prompts looked like, clarify my instructions or give me in more simple terms. These were prompts written by students, which they submitted. Whereas a more deeper engagement looked where they had specific instructions or give me in a certain format or tailor it to a particular genre or an audience, which shows a slightly deeper level of engagement in terms of ideation and planning. And in the next step, which is usually where they find information and evaluate it, so which is the information seeking and evaluation step, the most commonly seen instances were just using it to ask for information on a topic. So, can you talk about ethical issues? Can you talk about NLP? Whereas there was slightly deeper engagement in other forms of questions around, can you expand or explain more about this? Or can you give me more examples? And also in reflection, many students said they had verified information that was provided by ChatGPT. So that's all showing deeper levels of engagement. In the next stage, which is putting your thoughts into writing stage, which is the writing and presentation. Again, there were differences in how students engaged with it, where one of the shallow engagements looked more around formatting and grammatical help, correct my grammar or rephrase this, or how do I cite? So formatting, presentation kind of help. And it's empty on the other hand, because we expected to see a bit more deeper engagement around argumentation and reverse outlining, for instance. But unfortunately, we didn't see any in our data set where students use that kind of prompting or reflection. And the other two dimensions are others we think is quite important. One is the personal reflection or the self-reflection. How do students think about themselves when they reflect on their use of AI? And here, a shallow reflection generally involved students talking things about what they did. So, I use this to get the meaning of an assignment in against something where they recognize the limitations, they see where it can be used, how they can apply it for their writing. For instance, they identified it's sometimes overly organized, seem to form-like, and so on. So they've done a lot of experimentation and trying with ChatGPT. And again, conversational engagement is something that's particularly important for chatbots or where you have dialogic interaction. And this is, again, a very common way of using those chatbots where, you treat it like a search engine. Tell me about NLP, give me examples, give me ethics, but there's no ongoing dialogic two-way conversation, whereas the students who engaged with it at a much deeper level had a more productive counter conversation and adding more details, keep going, add more detail or so So these are some preliminary findings, and I should say this is a subset of the entire thing. Obviously, these are quite intensive, time intensive to conduct, and this is results of manual coding and qualitative analysis approved by ethics. And one of the main things, there's a lot going on here, but the main thing is the green, which stands for deep, is minimal or almost non-existent in a lot of categories. And except for the reflection, self-reflection, a lot of students thought they had engaged with it deeply, whereas from the prompts and from the data itself, there was very limited deep engagement. Most students had demonstrated shallow engagement. So which obviously means they need much more support to learn to effectively work with AI. So these are some of the student reflections, and I'll just flick through in the interest of time to lead us into one final closing slide, which I want to leave as a message, because a lot of research and education majority have focused on disciplinary expertise. I also think that educators have a moral responsibility to prepare students for an AI-driven world. Because these tools are not going away. Sorry about the slides. And one of the things they can do is assessment and learning design to support this critical self-development. So in addition to the disciplinary expertise, we also make sure that the assessments are looking at processes in the learning and not just the final product. And these are examples of how that learning took place. And also the learning design or activities to help them support the development of such skills, because it doesn't come by itself. And again, more sharing and evidence-based discussions around how Gen AI is being used for learning purposes, exactly why we need these kind of events and more sharing, but also highly encourage educators to have a look at how students are working with it, how we work with it, and experiment and share data and research. Thank you.